Most people spend their entire lives chasing money, a bigger paycheck, a nicer car, a little less stress at the end of the month. They wake up early, they stay late, they trade years they will never get back. It is the same race, run by millions, toward a line that keeps moving. They believe the next raise will finally be enough. It never is. And when it is finally over, they have a number in a bank account and almost nothing else. They called it success. It was only survival. But Machiavelli would ask a far more dangerous question. What did you actually build? Not what you earned, not what you spent. What survives when you are no longer here to hold it all together? Sit with that. Most people never do, and it quietly costs them everything. The answer is not in what they own, it is in what holds together when they are gone. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Money that dies with you is not power. It is temporary comfort, wearing an expensive suit. A large balance can vanish in a single generation. Cash with no structure behind it is not strength, it is exposure waiting to be punished. The bigger the pile, the more people circle it. Wealth with no walls invites the taking. Money without defense is not wealth. It is a target with a price tag. So, let us define it correctly. Real wealth survives the man who created it. It does not depend on your effort, your energy, or your name. It keeps working long after you are gone. Most people build something that needs them alive to exist. That is not wealth, that is rent. And this is where generational wealth becomes a different game. It is not a pile of money sitting in an account. It is structure, influence, and systems. It is control. It is mentality. It is protection and strategic positioning, passed down on purpose. Those are the foundations. Every word that follows is built on top of them. Miss them, and you are not building wealth. You are renting a lifestyle until it ends. Now, here is where the game changes. Building this does not require more income. It requires architecture. Cold, quiet architecture. The kind most people never think to build because they are too busy chasing the next number on the screen. More income fills the account. Architecture protects it for 100 years. Those are not the same skill. The earner works for money. The architect builds a machine that works without him. And every dynasty begins with one principle. Power that is visible becomes a target. Power that stays hidden survives for generations. The world rewards the loud with attention. It rewards the hidden with time. Attention fades in a season. Time builds across generations. Remember that. Every rule that follows is built on it. Rule 1. Build systems that stay rich without you. Most people build income, not infrastructure. They become the engine, the brand, the entire operation. So when they stop, everything stops. The moment they disappear, the system collapses with them. Their children inherit cash, but no machine behind it. And cash with no machine behind it always runs out. It is spent, not multiplied. The money leaves before the next generation understands what it was. They are handed a result with no engine, so the result fades. So the Machiavellian move is simple. Build assets, trusts, and systems that run independently. Structures that survive lawsuits, chaos, taxes, and incompetent heirs. The true measure of wealth isn't how much you make. It is how difficult it becomes for your bloodline to lose it. And that leads us into the next law. Now, let us go deeper. Rule 2. Never allow your family to inherit weakness. Watch the pattern repeat across 3 generations. The founder sacrifices everything. The next generation spends to impress. The third forgets entirely. By then, the money is gone, and no one remembers how it was made. The empire did not fall to enemies. Softness entered the bloodline. No lawsuit did that. No market did that. Comfort did that. 1 generation at a time. So you do not just leave money behind. You train psychology. You raise heirs as commanders, not consumers. Money can be handed over in a moment. Strength has to be built over years. Machiavelli would rather leave behind a disciplined heir with nothing than a spoiled heir with everything. And that brings us to the next layer. Rule 3. Hide the engine, show only the result. Most people broadcast everything they own, every win, every asset, every move they make, and every signal they send becomes a map for someone else to follow. What can be seen can be studied. What can be studied can be taken. The strategic mind does the opposite. You separate visibility from control. Let the world see the result, never the machine that produces it. They can admire what you have. They can never locate how it works. You build it not like a castle, like a maze. Now, here is the part nobody wants to admit. If your ego needs attention, you cannot build a legacy. Fame creates exposure, and exposure creates vulnerability. The more they see, the more they can reach. Every moment in the spotlight is a moment someone studies your weakness. The applause feels like power. It is really a map of where to strike. The performer wants to be celebrated today. The architect wants his descendants protected for decades. One builds a reputation, the other builds a wall. You cannot be both. Choose now, before the next rule forces you to. Rule 4. Protect wealth from the people closest to you. The greatest threat is rarely a stranger. It is spouses, children, partners, and relatives who slowly begin to feel entitled. They do not arrive as enemies. They arrive as family. And loyalty exists only as long as incentives remain aligned. The moment those incentives shift, the people shift with them. That is not cruelty. It is human nature, and it is predictable. The ones closest to the wealth are the ones who can reach it first. So, you build estate plans like fortresses, prenups, trusts with behavioral conditions written into them. You don't build a dynasty based on hope. You build it assuming human weakness will eventually appear. Rule 5. Build income that survives trends, attention, and relevance. You cannot pass down your hustle. You cannot inherit charisma. You cannot transfer virality. Those things die with the person who carried them. They were never assets. They were performances on borrowed time. When the attention fades, so does the income. And attention always fades. The audience moves on, and the money moves with them. So, the move is durable. Cash-flowing assets, boring businesses, intellectual property held under hard structures. None of it needs your face. None of it needs your name. It simply works. Trends die. Algorithms change. But systems built around necessity survive generations. Now we move into the next principle. Rule 6. Train the heir before giving them power. Inheritance without preparation creates entitlement instead of responsibility. A fortune handed to an unready mind becomes a weapon turned inward. Give power to someone who never earned it, and they will not defend it. They will spend it and call it freedom. The gift becomes the thing that destroys them. Comfort they did not build means nothing to them. What costs nothing to receive costs nothing to lose. So, you test them, you expose them to pressure, you let them fail, and then you let them rebuild. Wealth doesn't create character, it exposes it. Rule 7. Real legacy is built in silence. The moment people see how much you control, you stop being a builder, you become a target. Visibility attracts envy, attention attracts regulation, public success attracts enemies you never chose. The quiet empire is the one no one thinks to attack. Silence is not weakness, it is camouflage. What the world cannot measure, it cannot move against. The longer people underestimate you, the safer your empire becomes. Rule 8. Teach your bloodline to fear entitlement. Empires rarely die from the outside. They decay internally, and the poison usually starts with entitlement. When people believe they deserve without producing, the rot has already begun. It spreads quietly, one comfort at a time. The heir who feels owed will never protect what he was handed. He will only consume it. Entitlement spends. Discipline builds. Only one of them survives. So you reward execution, not existence. Contribution, not birth order. Effort, not appetite. Every dollar inherited should feel like pressure, not permission. Rule 9. Design systems that survive emotional chaos. Divorces, deaths, sibling conflicts, lawsuits, addictions, greed. Every family meets these eventually. One emotional decision can destroy decades of disciplined construction. Feelings are the enemy of structure. A fortune protected only by good intentions is not protected at all. The day the crisis comes, intentions disappear. When emotion takes the wheel, structure is the only thing that holds. So, you write succession plans in advance. You define voting rights. You build protections that trigger automatically, with no emotion required. The rules are written while the mind is calm, so they hold when the storm arrives. Ordinary families react emotionally, dynasties operate structurally. Now comes one of the coldest rules of all. Rule 10. Never build what can easily be seized. If your wealth can be frozen, sued, or taken in a single ruling, your empire is fragile. A structure with one weak point is not protection. It is an invitation. One ruling, one signature, and it ends. What sits in the open in one name is what disappears the fastest. Concentration is not safety. It is a single door for the enemy. An empire that hides nothing has nothing left to defend it. So you layer the defense. Trusts, holding companies, diversified jurisdictions, legal separation between you and what you own. Each layer buys time. Each layer turns one easy target into many hard ones. The strongest empires appear smaller than they actually are. Rule 11. Build for people you will never meet. Stop asking how to get a little richer this year. Ask a far harder question. How do I create a system capable of surviving 50 years of human weakness? That single question is what separates a fortune from a dynasty. You will never see who it protects. That is the point. You are building for names that do not exist yet. You plant a structure whose shade you will never sit under, so you answer it with family offices, perpetual trusts, foundations, governance, structures that outlast everyone alive today. These are not tools for today. They are walls for a century from now. You build it not emotionally, architecturally. Rule 12. Silence is the insurance policy of power. The loud get noticed. The noticed get challenged. The challenged get drained. The loud become exposed. The quiet endure. That is the whole equation. Every time you announce your strength, you invite someone to test it. The wise let their power stay invisible. The man no one fears is the man no one fights. When a man stops needing to be seen, something changes. His wealth becomes more than money. It becomes infrastructure. Rule 13. The empire must function without the emperor. If your presence is the condition for survival, you have not built a dynasty. You have built temporary success with an expiration date stamped on it. The day you step away, it begins to die. A system that needs one man is not a system. It is a performance that ends when he does. The empire that cannot outlive its founder was never an empire. It was a long shift. So you train operators, not fans, strategists, not emotional followers, people who execute when you are not in the room. That is permanence. Rule 14. Separate influence from the core wealth. Influence is useful. It opens doors and moves people. But influence is loud, and the core must stay quiet. Fame is exposure disguised as power. It feels like strength, while it quietly widens the target. The more the world watches your influence, the more it must never see your core. The louder the name, the quieter the vault must stay. So, you keep a visible layer for the world and an invisible core no one can reach. Visibility should never exceed protection. Rule 15. Wealth must be modular. Concentration feels like strength. It is not. It is a single point of failure waiting to happen. Put everything in one place, and one blow ends it all. So, you think like a spider web. If one section breaks, the rest remain functional. No single failure can reach all of it. That is the design. That is true resilience, not confidence, preparation. Rule 16. Protect the narrative of the family name. Money without meaning eventually dissolves. Stories outlive structures. A bloodline that forgets why it was built will not protect what it was given. Memory is what holds the walls together. When the meaning dies, the discipline dies, and the money soon follows. A name with no story is just an account waiting to be emptied. So, you document the philosophy, the sacrifices, the behaviors that preserve it, and the ones that destroy it. You don't just leave money. You leave interpretation, a code, a philosophy. Rule 17. Make everything conditional. Unconditional wealth creates passive consumers instead of active protectors. Hand it over freely, and you teach them to expect, not to earn. Comfort with no condition becomes entitlement with no limit. So nothing is simply given. Every access is earned. Every privilege is tied to behavior. What is freely handed over is rarely protected. What is earned is guarded. Inheritance is not a finish line. It is a responsibility, a test. Rule 18. Delay power. Accelerate discipline. Give a young heir full control too early, and you hand them a weapon they cannot aim. Power without discipline does not build. It destroys, and it destroys fast. So you delay access not to punish them, but to sharpen them. Responsibility comes first. Control comes later. The heir who waits learns to respect what he will one day hold. The empire stops feeling like free comfort. It becomes sacred responsibility. Rule 19. Teach them how to own time. Money is not the final asset. True wealth is ownership over time itself. The person who controls their time controls their decisions. Teach them to wait when others rush, to hold when others sell, to think in decades, not in days. The one who can wait will always outlast the one who cannot. Patience becomes leverage. Stillness becomes strategy. And time becomes the ultimate asset. Rule 20. Wealth is a language. Teach fluency early. Money is not just numbers on a page. It is psychology, negotiation, incentives, law, and behavior. A person who cannot read those forces will always be controlled by someone who can. So you teach them to read the game beneath the money long before they ever touch it. The one who cannot speak the language of money will always serve the one who can. That is real literacy. Rule 21. Burn the blueprint after the empire is complete. Predictable power becomes vulnerable power. If they can trace every step you took, they can dismantle every step you took. A path everyone can copy is a path everyone can attack. So you teach principles, not exact paths. You make them rebuild, not just receive. The map you leave behind is the map your enemies will use. So you leave none. What people rebuild personally, they protect fiercely. What they inherit passively, they eventually waste. And this is where everything changes. You are no longer building wealth. You are building continuity. You stop measuring success by what you hold. You measure it by what outlives you. A structure designed to survive ignorance, betrayal, and chaos. Political change, economic collapse, emotional instability, time itself. It does not need you to defend it. It defends itself, long after your name is forgotten. That is the answer to the question from the very beginning. That is what you actually build. So, remember what real wealth is. Not a fortune, a fortress. Not visibility. Control. Not temporary success. Permanent structure. One day, the founder disappears, and the system keeps running without him. The assets keep working. The heirs stay disciplined. The structure holds against everything sent to break it. No single death ends it. No single mistake breaks it. It was built to continue. That is real. Generational wealth. Wealth designed to survive history itself. If this shifted the way you see yourself even a little, then don't stop here. Because what you've heard in this video is only the surface. Beneath it are deeper layers of psychology, influence, and power that most people never reach. What looks like the whole game is only the first move. There are two kinds of people watching right now: the many who move on, and the few who change. If you're not one of them, then subscribe, because every video here is designed to sharpen your mindset, increase your value, and separate you from the crowd. Most people will watch this and move on. A few will stay and change. Decide which one you are.